It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Wednesday, November 8th, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have Health is Happiness, the Foundational Figures Word Study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? Yes, it is Wednesday already. We're in the middle of the week. I'm super happy and thankful that all of you guys, we've all made it to the middle of the week. And of course, we have Wednesday service tonight. Don't forget, tomorrow we have Q&A Thursday. So get those questions ready and send them to me whenever you can. And if you haven't yet, go ahead, leave a like and comment to build our community. Just super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So let's get up and support each other each and every day. All right, so this week's Sunday message, sorry. This week's Sunday message title, I was speaking a little bit too fast for me. A person has to experience something in order to know its essence. The second title is, Why Are You Happy? You are happy because the eternal God and Jesus came and you've received them and believe. All right, it is Wednesday, guys. I'm just super happy and thankful that all of us here are joining together on this Morning Star Drive podcast. Just a lot of things going on around this world, in this history, in your personal lives. I don't know if this is good news to you, but we've already started the second week of November. Yes, the second week of November has already begun. Just super thankful and grateful. All of you guys just always joining, listening to these podcasts each and every day. And like I said, being in Korea, I'm able to meet a lot of you guys that are listening to this podcast too. And I am so thankful and grateful to God when I hear how much this podcast is kind of like a part of your life, or even it's something that's really helped you in your faith or your life too. All right. So let me start off with something very interesting. I had a crazy dream this morning. Okay. So this morning, well, of course, it's Tuesday night for me. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm starting my podcast recording like at 10 p.m. It's like past 10 p.m. right now, and I'm doing this recording, but I kind of like it because like the entire day can go by and there's a lot of things that happen during the day, and I'm kind of able to talk and share about those things too. But let me start with the interesting dream I had this morning. All right, so this is right before I was waking up. I was in some town, and I remember I was in a cafe, obviously, right? I'm in a cafe, and outside the window, I'm looking at these these statues, right? But they're not like they're not like statues. They're like they look like robots, like, you know, kind of like those Japanese robots, like what kind of robots would they, like Voltron or Mech Warrior, those you know, those types of machines are outside, these statues, okay? And somewhere in the dream, I actually stole one of those statues. So I stole one of the statues, I put it in my car, and then I saw the police, and the police were searching for the person who stole it. And I was like, oh no. So I was like, you know what? I might as well just give it back, drop it off at the police station, right? So I'm taking the statue to bring it back to the police station, and I stop by a shopping mall. I park my car, I go into the shopping mall, and I think I'm going in there to talk to the police or something. I forget what it was, but I'm just going into the shopping mall, and I realized I need to, it's not there, like the police are not there or something like that. And I was like, oh, I got to go somewhere else. But I'm having a really hard time finding where I parked my car. Like, I'm like, where am I going? And I'm like, in the dream, I'm just exhausted. And I'm running around, looking around, trying to find it, going from floor to floor. I can't find my car. And it was just the whole, like the most emotional part was trying to find my car. And I ended up not finding my car, and I just woke up. It was just a weird dream. So it was a weird dream because it doesn't seem like anything important. Like, doesn't seem like, oh, this is one of those great, like, amazing dreams. But there was enough emotion in the dream to wake me up for pre-dawn. You know what I mean? Like, when you have that dream where you're like really nervous or anxious, you're scared or you're so happy, and you wake up with that feeling, right? So for me, it kind of just felt like this is the Holy Spirit trying to wake me up. Like, hey, I got to wake you up. So like the Holy Spirit gave me a dream that had like very high emotion in it. So I was able to get up. And I'm not sure what it means at all though. But I had a good prayer time after, and I spent a lot of my prayer on two topics. And one of them, of course, is my mission, right? The other one is a bit more personal, but the one I was like, what do I do for my mission? What's best for me here? What's best for me there? But yeah, it was an interesting dream. Just like trying to find my car. It just got me, I was really caught up in emotion trying to find my car for some reason. So yeah, I all day, I don't really see a meaning in it yet. But I really liked it that it woke me up. Like, that's the thing I liked about the dream, is it woke me up for pre-dawn. And have you guys had this before? I woke up at pre-dawn. I opened my eyes, and then I laid in bed for about 12 minutes. Well, I counted. It's exactly 12 minutes. So 12 minutes I was laying in bed. And the whole time for 12 minutes, I am motivating myself to get up. Like, come on, you can do it. Come on, Sky, you can wake up. It's time to pray. We're in Wolmyeongdong. You've got to pray. I'm like motivating myself. Like, yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. But the funny part was, the one thing that I'm really good at is when I count to 3, I can get up. So it's like 1, 2, 3, and then I'll get up, right? But I know myself really well. So since I know myself, I did everything but count to 3 because I knew that the moment I count to 3, I would be getting up. So I just kind of laid there because I was like going, oh man, I want to lay here a little bit longer, but if I count to 3, I got to get up right now. And so I just sat there like not counting to 3, knowing that would be my trigger to get up. But yeah, eventually at the 12-minute mark, I was like, let's go. And I just got up and I washed up and I got ready for pre-dawn prayer and stuff like that too. So yeah, it was quite interesting for me. I really, really enjoyed it. I really had a fun time with that prayer. So yeah. Today, I also I checked out a new cafe in Kumsan. And this is a place that Daniel Baker, who does Until the End podcast on the segment on Fridays, he took me to this really, really nice cafe called Chowon Gabe. Right? I'm not even sure what it means. Really nice. It's so comfortable inside, like a cabin. A lot of wood. The furniture is really nice. Coffee was decent too, and the food was really good. So it was kind of crazy because when we went there, this house was like hidden between other houses, like behind other old rickety houses. But this was a really, really nice place, and it feels like it's like this hidden secret spot. But it was really nice. I liked it, and I would say that is the best cafe I've been to so far. Like, I did go to another really good cafe called Arechimare. It's like this. And that was the one I was telling you, like, it's amazing. Like, 4 floors, it's got trails and hiking. Like, that place is really, like, that had the best cafe, like, interior and stuff. But the coffee wasn't as good. And this place was smaller, but it was quaint, it was comfortable, and I had a real, like, I that was one of my favorite cafes here. So, if you guys end up going to, I would suggest those two to go to, Arechimare and Chowon Gabe. That was in Kumsan. Arechimare is, I forget where that was, but it's closer. It's closer than the other one. But yeah, I think everyone will know that because even in Arechimare, we have members that work there too. So that was pretty cool. So and I like this place because Chowon Gabe, for me, I don't like dark roast, and this one was kind of like a medium dark. So it wasn't like that burnt flavor, but I like the coffee there. So smooth caramel flavor in the beans, really good. I would say another one that was really, really good, like that caramelly flavor, was this place called Tea Neda, the one that Sunseam has his sign in there. That one has a very caramel flavor, but it's not that good. But what's the other one? Oh, the Bucket Union. That one is also a nice one. It's in between Wolmyeongdong and Kumsan. It's like in the middle of nowhere, but that one's got pretty good coffee too. But either way, so, these are just for your references until, because everyone goes to Wolmyeongdong anyways. So if you want to find some really good coffee or a nice place to sit and stuff, those are like 2 places I would recommend so far. Okay? And actually, what the funny thing is? One of the most exciting things for me now is actually planning my trip to Taiwan. Like, this is very, very exciting for me. And I'm going to go for 2 weeks. And this trip is actually planned, like it's planned. It sad to say this, but it seems like I know more people in Taiwan than I know in Korea now. Like all the people that I was really close to, all the people close to KJS and stuff, they've all left, right? So I don't really have like those close people in Korea anymore. All the close, like I have closer friends in Japan, closer friends in Taiwan, in Malaysia, and America and Canada. Like those places I have closer friends, even Singapore. Maybe not as many in Singapore, right? But so Taiwan, like we're already talking about which cafes we're going to, who I'm going to meet. Like of course the most important thing obviously is the cafes. Just kidding, right? But I haven't been to Taiwan in a very, very long time, so I just remember that the coffee culture wasn't very strong, but I think this time will be much better because they sent me a website with the 25 best cafes in Taiwan, and they look pretty good. So I think this is going to be a kind of a cool trip, and I'm really, really looking forward to this too. Yeah, it's kind of sad. Korea's not the same for me as the past. Like, I do know a lot of people here still, but the close friends have all left. And, like, even in Korea, like, in the past, I always had somewhere to go. I always had places to stay. But, like, now I just don't have any strong connections anymore. So it's a very different feeling for me. And one thing I would say is staying in Wolmyeong actually feels like the best place to be in Korea right now. Just the feeling now. But I will take some time for some short trips. I think I will head to Busan this weekend. I think I will. Like I'll probably head out maybe on tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll stay there for about 2 nights and then come back to Wolmyeong on Saturday, something like that. So I think I'm going to take a quick trip. And I'm already talking to some friends about going there too. So I hope that works out. But yeah. So that's kind of like, I will be heading off. Well, not heading off. I'll probably be doing my podcast at the end of this week in Busan, like for the Thursday, Friday podcast. So I'm pretty excited about that because I saw some crazy nice cafes over there, and I'm looking forward to that too. Today, I've been spending some time with Daniel. And, he's an SS leader. He's still young. He's 20 years old, very, very young. SS leader for the church in Kumsan, I believe. Or is it Wolmyeong? The Wolmyeong church, right? And, wow. He's young, and he's taking care of 30 people, 30 kids. Now, for me, if you I'm not sure about you guys, but when I think about one person, he's 20 years old, taking care of 30 SS, taking care of 30 people is basically like head leading in America and Canada, right? A lot of those churches, like taking care of 30 people, you're not going to have that many people in like America and Canada and probably in other churches too. So I was like, wow, he's doing like almost like head leader work. And we were just having good discussions today, and he asked a really good question about, he asked me, what is the hard part about being a leader? The hardest thing for me when I was leading. And I was like, man, like, for me, I said, the hardest part for me was dealing with people. And it's not like people are hard to deal with, but like people aren't like machines where they're exactly the same every single day. No, there's stuff going on every day, stuff happening at work, stuff happening at church, stuff happening between your friends or your family. Like there's always things going on, and people are never going to always be the same. And you can't treat them the same all the time either. And dealing with people is like, the one thing I realize is you can never think that they will always be the same. Because they won't, and they change, right? So, like, let's take a look at it just take it at the most extreme level. Just look at this year. Look at the people that left this year. Like, these are people that we thought in our heads would never change. We thought to ourselves, there's no way these people would leave, right? I'm not just talking about KJS. I'm talking about a lot of people, right? And they reached a point, like, just the feeling of these people that left this year. Like, when you look at KJS, right, you're like, you thought they kind of reached a certain point of completion, right, or perfection, where they would never do what they did this year kind of thing. And that's why it was so shocking for us to hear about not just KJS, but, a lot of people in our countries, and how, not just they left, but how, like, they're slandering or betraying, or how far they've come to come against us, right? And when you think about this, that's a very extreme example, but every day and even during the day, people are constantly changing in small ways, right? We're affected by the things that we go through. We're affected by our own thoughts. We're affected by the things people say to us too. And it's always dependent on situation and circumstance. So I was saying that, you know what? It's dealing with people. It's not always it's the hardest thing is dealing with people because people are not always the same and people always change. I'm not saying that they're changing like leaving Providence, but just we change. We go through a lot of difficult things. We change. And, it's not just the people that change, but I was even like saying, yeah, and if I look at all the difficulties I had with people, I would say even half the problems are because of me. Like my character's not made. My character hasn't been fully developed. I haven't completed or made my spirit yet, right? There's just so many things going on. So dealing with people is they're changing and I'm changing. They're going through ups and downs while I'm going through ups and downs, right? And it's a difficult job for a leader that we're constantly dealing with people and sometimes we're not always in our best shape, right? And I said, if there's one thing that I say that I would change if I was a leader is I talked about one of the mistakes I would change is don't be a reactionary leader. That's what I was telling him. Don't be a reactionary leader. And what's a reactionary leader? Is a reactionary leader only deals with people or talks to them when a problem comes up. So you're reacting to a problem. And, in the past, I would think to myself, oh, I'm a head leader. I'm busy. I'm this, I'm that. Sometimes I'd only talk to people when there's a problem, right? And what happens is if you keep doing it that way as a reactionary leader, then people become accustomed to it and they notice it. They're sensitive to these things. They'll notice that, hey, you only talk to me when there's a problem or there's an issue. And once they realize this, every time you want to talk to them, they're going to be afraid of you or they're going to be like, oh no, there's another problem. They don't even want to answer the phone, right? People aren't stupid, right? So if we continue to do things as in a reactionary way, people will realize our methods, right? That we're always doing it this way, right? Every time we want to talk, it's because we have a problem with them or people have problems with them or they have a problem, right? And when people notice this, people are going to start to avoid you because they know that you're not really caring about them. You don't really deeply care about them. You're just there to solve the problem. It's kind of like a hospital kind of thing, right? So I was telling him, a good leader knows his people really well, knows how they're doing. Like, not just when they have problems, right? But even before problems happen, just see how they're doing, check on them, see what's going on in their life. You'll have a better understanding of how they are, better understanding of how to deal with them because you know what type of issues and situations they're going through too, right? So I told them that it's better to set schedules to meet your leaders, like especially the leaders right under you. If I say there's a second thing that I would do way better, like I would completely change is I would be meeting my leaders probably bi-weekly. Like the ones right under me. If I was a head leader, I'd be meeting my assistant leaders. I'd be meeting my department leaders, at least to that level. And I'd be checking on them, just not checking on them to see, are you going to pre-dawn? Not that stuff, just how's life, right? I want to check on them just to see how they're doing, what I can do to help them to become better leaders, right? So I said, set schedules. Like if I have like 3 leaders beneath me, then every 2 weeks or every month or however you schedule it, you say, hey, every second Tuesday of the month or, every second Tuesday of the month, let's meet and just chat and talk and go to a cafe and stuff like that too. You know what I mean? Where we can just really sit down and talk and see how things are going in their life, right? And I would set those schedules. And I would, man, there's so many things that I would do differently just from looking back at the things I did wrong and the wrong thinking that I had of what a leader really was. Like, even for me, I think I've told you guys this before, is like being a leader is not like telling people what to do or just preaching and doing these things. The leader is the one that's raising the people right below them, right? Because remember, the head leader is not managing everyone. They're basically training and managing the people right below them so they can lead their people well. Because if your department leaders are really, really good, then that's less management for you, less problems that you have to deal with as a head leader, right? Like, we have to be those that are training the ones right below us so that they can do their job and lead the people below them too. The head leader shouldn't be meeting people the most. It's the department leaders, team leaders, and group leaders too. So, yeah, it was interesting because, when I was talking to Daniel, it reminded me of what it was like for me too when I first got my mission. Like, my first mission I got was a campus leader. That was 2 months into Providence. And the only reason I was a campus leader is because I was the only person on my campus. That's the only reason I was a campus leader. Why was I the lecturer of my campus? Because I was the only person on campus. So I had to evangelize. I was a campus leader. I did all that stuff. So, yeah, I just... I have so much respect for all the head leaders, assistant leaders, department leaders. Like, Daniel's 30 SS. For me, that's nuts. That's a lot of people, right? Like I said, that's like a head leader's work in Canada and America. So big shout outs to everyone who's running departments, groups, teams, churches, whatever it is. I really, sincerely, I tell you guys are doing an amazing job. And we're not going to be perfect at our jobs. We're not going to be the greatest at our jobs either. But just the fact that we are doing it, two things. One thing Sunseam said is because, when you receive the mission from God, God will give you the power to do the mission. That's number one. And number two is just the fact that you've volunteered to do it. I would say that in itself is such a great thing. It is a great thing because not many people want to be leaders these days too. Yeah, so that is just big shout outs to you guys over there. And I just really, really enjoy my talks with people that I have right now. I almost feel like right now that I am kind of head leading through this podcast, but like being able to talk to people, sitting down, like when I was in Wolmingdong, like I met some people when the Japanese members came, like just people that I met from this podcast, sitting down with them in a cafe and just talking to them. For me, that was like those are good memories for me. Really, really good memories. Like I can't some members I can't wait to meet their families. Some members I'm just like, wow, we finally get to see each other now, kind of thing. So I'm really hoping to be meeting more people from this podcast also. And like I said, once again, super thankful for all of you guys out there who are supporting us on Patreon. Without you guys' support, this podcast would have been finished a long while ago. But because of you guys, we've been able to do such amazing things. Okay, so yeah, before we get to the second segment, before we get to our first break, just want to let you guys know today's foundational figures word study. So we've been studying about great figures in Christianity and the ones that we don't really hear about much. Now, I'm going to go into the Protestant Reformation, but I'm not going to go into Martin Luther because everyone knows a lot about Martin Luther, but I'm going to go into his olive tree. And those of you guys don't know that Martin Luther's olive tree was John Calvin, Johannes Calvin, right? And interestingly, many actually say that Calvin's impact on modern Christianity, especially when it comes to theology and exegesis, is much bigger today than what Luther did in terms of what they believed in, right? So I'm going to go over John Calvin today, okay? So that means let's get into the first break of the day. All right, so let's get into today's word study. And of course, today we're going to go into foundational figures. And today we're going to go into John Calvin. And yes, as I was saying in segment number 1, that John Calvin is the olive tree to Martin Luther. So I want to get into his story and what kind of contribution he's made. And like I said, he's a lot of his theology is still believed in today, where most of Luther's are not. So even if you're from the Lutheran Church, there's a lot of things that people still, they don't believe in a lot of the things that Luther brought about, right? So let me kind of get into this first. So the Protestant Reformation. John Calvin was one of the main figures in the Protestant Reformation, but let's get into who he is and how did he gain so much influence. Okay, so John Calvin was born in France in 1509, and he's one of the key figures of the Protestant Reformation. And to understand Calvin, we got to first understand some key things about the Reformation. Okay, so the Catholic Church at that time was the major denomination of Christianity before the Reformation, and the Catholic Church gave services in Latin and saw the Pope as God's representative on earth, and giving Rome power over emperors and kings. Okay. And at that time, if you went against the Catholic Church, you'd be deemed a heretic, right? So someone who goes against the Catholic Church. And one of the big things they were fighting against were indulgences. So the Catholic Church were selling these, you buy these indulgences so that you could be forgiven of your sins, which was something that many people were against this too. Now, the Protestant movement, basically, it stemmed from Martin Luther, and the word Protestant has the word protest in it because they're protesting against the Catholic Church. And so where did this reform actually start? It started in 1517, and we know that happened from Martin Luther when he posted the 95 Theses right on one of the church on the door of a castle church in Wittenberg, okay, or Wittenberg, right? And this sent shockwaves across the religious world. Right? So it was just, basically 95 Theses was about all the corruption that is going on in the Catholic Church. And he attacked the church's methods like indulgences and the power of the Pope. And he wished for a more purified Christianity that went back to the scripture. And of course, how did the leaders react to Luther's message? Well, Pope Leo X branded him a heretic and banished him from the Catholic Church. He was excommunicated. Followers of Luther invented the term Protestant, which was first used in 1529 as a protest against the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, his refusal to allow religious freedom in Germany. Now, although religious figures like Jan Hus had previously spoken out against indulgences, part of Luther's success was down to an important development in the 16th century, which is, we know, the printing press. The printing press allowed Luther's thesis to be translated and widely distributed all over Germany, all over France, England, and stuff, right? So Luther set about translating the Bible from Latin to German to make God's word more accessible. Okay, so where does John Calvin come in? Now, Calvin was born into a Catholic family, a strict one too, and his father actually worked for a bishop who wished that John became a priest, right? So his father wanted Calvin to become a priest. So he sent him to Paris to study. Now, in the capital in Paris was when Calvin began to depart from his strict upbringing. First coming into contact with humanist ideals and eventually those of reformers before his 20th birthday. So what is a humanist ideal? So a humanist is a philosophy of thinkers. One of the most famous is Erasmus, who's a genius, elevated the position of the individual in forging his or her own destiny rather than religious notions. Okay, so it's focused on the human more than the religion. Okay, now as the 1530s wore on, Calvin began to embrace Protestant notions with both hands. So with the government of France becoming less and less tolerant of such ideals, Calvin sought refuge in Basel, Switzerland, and he studied theology and managed to make sense of his beliefs. So the culmination of this was his 1536 treatise, Institutes of the Christian Religion. This is probably his most famous book, and it basically cemented his place as Luther's successor and the torchbearer of Protestantism. Right, so that's how big he actually became. He became the head, the lead of Protestantism, and this book was a thing that shot him over the moon. So the Swiss were not very responsive to his writings initially, so he spent 3 years in Strasbourg, which was part of Germany back then, before being invited to Geneva in 1541 to lead the Protestant Reformation. So it was during the following years that he had his most influence until his death in 1564. Right? So John Calvin's book, the most influential book, was Institutes, right? And although Luther was the one that posted the 95 Theses and translated the Bible, the Protestant Reformation required more than just that. It required a systematic outline of its beliefs. Who are we as the Protestant Reformation? And Calvin was far more articulate, right? Like Luther was more of the orator, ranting and raving. Right? And that's why Calvin's Institutes was a great success, addressed to French King Francis I as a request to stop persecuting reformers. So initially, Institutes was written in Latin and was subsequently translated into French and then English, and is widely considered to form the basis of the Reformed doctrine. So get into what are the ideas of Calvin. So what is John Calvin's beliefs, right? So we can't, we don't want to fall into a trap of characterizing Calvinism as the teachings of John Calvin, right? Of course, he is the main reference point for Calvinism, but many of his ideas have been hijacked and developed by other reformers. So the main reference point for John Calvin's beliefs today can be traced to the Netherlands in 1618, right? So a meeting known as the Synod of Dort was held to tackle the new Reformed sect of Arminianism, which believed that human free will played a role in God's predestination. And for the Calvinists at the Synod of Dort, this was a dangerous idea, and it implied that God was not all-powerful as they believed. And to refute this, the assembly summarized Calvinist thought with the following, right? And this is what you call TULIP. TULIP is like the acronym that the Calvinists used for predestination. So TULIP, T-U-L-I-P. T is total depravity, which means the acknowledgement that sin destroys humanity, rendering it totally incomparable to God. U, unconditional election. God elects Christians. Only he has free will to decide who should be part of his religious family. So you see that's very, very super predestination, absolute, right? L is limited atonement. Understanding that Jesus' suffering was not for humanity, but only for the chosen. Not for everyone, only for the chosen. I is irresistible grace. Once you are selected, there is no stopping the lifelong belief in God, and this belief results in salvation in heaven. And last is P, which is perseverance of the saints, which means that once God is in your life, once God has chosen you, just that fact, you will persevere on the righteous path. Right? So this is the 5 points of Calvinism, TULIP, the 5 points of Calvinism, T-U-L-I-P, right? And it's a useful introduction to Calvinism, but it is vital to consider that it diverts from some of his original teachings, right? So even though this is Calvinism, it's not his, some of his original teachings did not teach these things. So for instance, limited atonement in particular is disputed as a true idea of John Calvin. Right? Maybe the original ideas have changed over time. Nevertheless, it acts as a starting point for many Calvinists today. Right? So there's another book books that he wrote, which are the two most famous. Institute is number one by far because it basically it makes the Protestant Reformation into doctrine. It basically puts out into words what Martin Luther couldn't do. Right? So it made it basically like a religion, right? So you know exactly what you need to do. However, he had commentaries too, right? So besides Institutes, he was more wielded, he basically made these amazing biblical commentaries, beginning with the New Testament in 1540 and following up with the Old Testament in 1554. It was just an effective strategy that helped the average believer to foster a scholarly understanding of the scripture. So in addition, it allowed Calvin to twist and mold the word of God to his own means, and Calvin's engagement with the book of Romans, for instance, distances Jesus from God, interestingly. And some scholars suggest that Calvin's intention is to show his followers that all members of humanity are clothed in Christ. So it's very, very interesting that he was one of the ones that basically said that Jesus was not, like, he separated Jesus from God a little bit more, right? So very, very interesting what he wrote, but he basically achieved so many things, like, for the Protestant Reformation. Like, number one, he gave a clear message, right? Institutes gave a systematic religious doctrine, which, like, it basically gave a legacy for the Reformation, right? And by 1561, Institutes had been translated into English, right? And it acted as the playbook for Calvinism and the embodiment and development of Lutheran ideals, right? So he gave a clear message. He also contributed, one of his big achievements was the Reformation in Geneva. So in Geneva, Calvin proved a vital cog in the growth of Protestantism. He preached widely after being convinced to return to Geneva by another Frenchman. And Calvin's influence was far-reaching as he taught religious members of many Reformed iterations, including John Knox, one of the founders of Presbyterianism in Scotland, and he was also uncompromising in his beliefs. And he basically was one of the key figures in Reformation, and you can even say that Protestantism came from him, right? And of course, a huge achievement was him spreading the word, right? So as well as teaching religious founders through the Protestant sanctuary of Geneva, Calvin developed a system of missionaries. His focus was on his homeland, France, and through clandestine teachings and services in any place possible, Reformed followers began to grow. And in France, the penalty for missionaries was death. And it was like a testament to the loyalty and beliefs of Calvin's followers that they risked everything to spread the word. So, yeah, he basically left this great, amazing legacy behind, and he is like the reason why the Protestant Reformation became organized, right? And he's someone. There's a lot of things that you could take away from what he's done, and like systematizing the Protestant Reformation is incredible. Putting it into words is incredible, right? Reading his book, The Institutes, that was the playbook for the Protestant Reformation, the 5 points of Calvinism, right? And it's something I do think that everyone should know who John Calvin really is, okay? So there's, guys, that is today's foundational figures, and we went over John Calvin today. Of course, it's a quick summary, but I hope it's something that helps you guys to understand who he really was, all right? So let's move into the second break of the day.
He's awesome, that's right. That's right.
The Lord is absolutely fulfilled the will with his heart, will, and life.
He's awesome, that's right. That's right.
God, I'm convicted. I'll keep God's purpose for all time. With love in my heart, I'll walk this path rejoicing for life. Life is awesome when I'm living with the Lord. My life is finally made the will of God come true. I'm so proud of my life. Now my future is so bright. My spirit is shining. Oh, awesome life.
Whatever they say, I will never give up on the will.
I know that my life's so awesome. Met and established by God Almighty. Provi is this God's history.
It is awesome, that's right. That's right.
With all my life, I'll always protect this history, the Lord and his will.
I am awesome, that's right. That's right.
God, I'm convicted. I walk this path and testify. With love in my heart, I sing it off with thanks on high. Life is awesome when I'm living with the Lord. My life is finally made the will of God come true. I'm so proud of my life. Now my future is so bright. My spirit is shining. Oh, awesome life.
Whatever they say, I will never give up on the will.
I know that my life's so awesome.
For God's will of creation, I raise my level with the Lord always until forever. When we don't know what's boring, since I know I'm all in my heart, in my mind, in my thoughts and actions. I change through the Lord's charisma, and I'm deeply rooted in this history. I'm always the ace, I won't be shaken. Word is the base, so cool you can't mistake it.
I chose my direction. I'm resolute that it's my lifetime career. I've received the Lord's thoughts, fulfill the purpose with Him.
Look just how awesome my life has become.
I'm so proud of my life.
Even I think that I look who making history.
Now my future's so
Since I
bright.
soaring up a life that comes out from the heavens.
My spirit is
My
shining.
spirit shines because I love the Lord forever, always.
Awesome life.
Whatever they say, I will never give up on the will.
I'm so proud of my life.
Even I think that I look who making history.
Now my future's so
Since I
bright.
soaring up a life that comes out from the heavens.
My spirit is
My
shining.
spirit shines because I love the Lord forever, always.
Awesome life.
Whatever they say, I will never give up on the will.
I know that my life's so awesome.
Okay, so let's get into our final segment for today on this Wednesday podcast. And very, very grateful and thankful as we have 2 new episodes that have just come out, and that will complete 1 year of Health is Happiness. And of course, we have from Singapore, we have Yuan Yu, who is studying physiotherapy, and she's going to go over injuries over the next 2 weeks. And so these are brand new episodes. This week, we're going to talk about soft tissue injuries. And then next week is going to be lower back pain injuries. So I do think talking about this one in terms of injuries is a very, very important thing, because just the other day, I was with a friend of mine, and she hurt her lower back. Right. So I think this would be something that if they listen to this, it'll be very beneficial to them too. Okay. So let's welcome all the way over there from Singapore. This is Yen Yu with Health is Happiness.
Hello everyone, my name is Yuan Yu and I'm from Singapore. I'm currently in my final year of physiotherapy. On today's topic of Health is Happiness, I will be talking more about soft tissue injury. I'd like to give thanks to the Holy Trinity for this opportunity, as well as Julius and Pastor Sky for this platform. As a disclaimer, this is general health advice. If you do have a soft tissue injury, especially a major one, it is best if you can seek medical attention. Firstly, what are soft tissue injuries? Soft tissues include things like ligaments, muscles, and tendons. And common soft tissue injuries include ankle sprains, muscle strains, Achilles tendinopathy. This doesn't refer to the facial tissue you buy at a supermarket, but these are soft tissues in our bodies that help stabilize our various joints, such as our ankles, our knees, etc. Due to trauma or an accident, or perhaps you carried something too quickly, too fast, these can cause soft tissue injuries, which refer to micro tears in those various structures. What happens when a soft tissue injury occurs? There is an immediate inflammatory response that presents as pain, redness, and swelling, as well as reduced function. Using an ankle sprain as an example, you will get pain, redness, swelling, and you won't be able to move your ankle that well. This inflammation process is, however, an essential process that initiates tissue repair, and in this process, there might be excessive bleeding and swelling, which can be very painful, and I'll explain more on how to cope with it later on. Moving on to the how. Traditionally, treatment is guided by a commonly known acronym, RICE. Rest, ice, compression, and elevation. However, in recent years, a new acronym, Peace and Love, provides more information on soft tissue healing by giving information on the acute and chronic stages, meaning right after the injury to weeks and months post-injury. For this acronym, P stands for protection, In the short term, meaning 24 hours to 2 days, it is better to reduce movement and to rest more. This reduces the risk of bleeding and aggravating the injury. While rest is important, prolonged rest can compromise tissue recovery. Therefore, we want to gradually use back the ankle to walk again, for instance, as much as we can tolerate the pain. So, how much pain is tolerable, or how much pain can we allow? Interestingly, for our bodies, pain is a way that our body protects itself. Therefore, when an area is injured, the body will send signals to tell you that, hey, this area is injured, therefore it is painful. Don't put so much weight on it, don't use it so much. And when the pain gradually subsides, the body then reduces the amount of pain that you feel from the area, and this is like the body telling you that, hey, it is safe to move this part, it is safe to use the ankle, for instance. While the short term can refer to 24 hours to 2 days, if the injury is very severe, it may even require a week or more. Therefore, it is good to seek medical advice when you especially have more serious injuries. But if the injury is more superficial, then you might need even less than 24 hours of relative rest. How do you know how much pain is acceptable? You can use this traffic light analogy whereby on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 is not painful, 10 is very painful. If let's say the pain level is 0 to 3, then that is considered mild pain and it's safe to move. If the pain increases to 4 to 6 out of 10, then that is moderate amount of pain. It's like a orange light on the traffic light, and it's a sign for you to reduce the amount of movement or reduce the activity that you're doing. Then if the pain goes to 7 to 10 out of 10, that is like a red light. It's better for you to stop and to take a rest first before continuing the activity. Then if the pain is going back to 0 to 3, it's like a green light and it's safe to move. Moving on to E. E stands for elevation. Elevating the injured part higher than our heart can reduce swelling. It might be difficult to always do this, therefore at least elevating to your hip level, such as when you're sitting down, you can elevate your leg if you had an ankle sprain. If you're sleeping and you're lying down, then you can elevate your ankle on a pillow so that it's higher than the rest of the body. Yep. Then moving on to A is avoiding anti-inflammatory medication or icing. So avoiding these things are because anti-inflammatory medication and icing can hinder the inflammatory process, which is essentially helping in the healing. But while the inflammatory process is for the healing, it can also be quite a painful one due to the swelling that comes with it. Hence, if you're in a painful state, the pain is a level 4 and above, then you can ice it in the short term. But once the pain reduces and it gets better, then there isn't a need to ice it. If you do want to ice it, don't place ice directly on your skin, but use a barrier like a towel to protect yourself from ice burns. Generally, you can ice about 15 minutes and take a break and repeat this cycle as many times as needed. C. Compression. Compression is a useful way to reduce swelling. This can be done in the form of a bandage, a ankle guard for instance, or tape. Ensure that if you were to get one, that it fits well and is not too tight. E. Education. Education is important because if we know, then we know how to do it properly. Recent research has shown that active recovery is much better than passive recovery. Passive recovery approach includes things like complete rest, electrotherapy, manual therapy, acupuncture. And if we do all of this only, then it has limited benefits. Whereas if you do active approach, which refers to, yes, having that relative rest, but then gradually using that limb, gradually moving the ankle again, this is more superior. After peace comes love, which means that after the first few days have passed, soft tissues need love. And I'll explain the acronym. L refers to load. Gradually using the limb more as soon as you can tolerate. There was this experiment that the group did early loading post-injury versus another group which rested a lot and delayed loading. The group who did early loading had much more benefits in strength and function. How do you know how much and when you can load? You can use the traffic light analogy 0 to 10 and look at how painful it is for you. By loading the ankle, in this instance, gradually, earlier on, then the ligaments or the muscles or the tendons that were injured in the area learn how to adapt and get stronger in order to support your body. And if it's going back to the traffic light analogy, around a 0 to 3 out of 10 on a pain score, it is safe to load it. And remember that for all of these loading, do it in a gradual manner. Oh, optimism. As much as we take care of the physical aspect as shared, the mental aspect is as important. Our brain plays a significant part in recovery because by being optimistic, it helps you to recover faster. If you do find yourself feeling fearful, anxious, depressed, or catastrophizing the injury, meaning thinking that the injury is worse than it actually is, research has shown that it will delay recovery. Definitely, while being optimistic is also to stay realistic on the general recovery time. V, vascularization. So as much as we, for instance, resume walking, strengthening the area, it's also good to do some aerobic activity. This will help improve the blood circulation, which helps improve recovery. So for instance, besides walking, you can jog, you can cycle, you can swim, and do all of these as tolerated. Lastly, E, exercise. Once the pain gets more manageable or it goes to minimal pain, then do some exercise to regain your strength. And with regards to what exercises you can do, you can refer to the previous podcast episode on strengthening, or you can search up exercises for X area that you injured. Okay, besides the peace and love acronym, I'll also touch a bit on prevention. The best case scenario is to prevent the injury, right? So what are some ways that we can prevent the injury? There are 3 ways I'll share today. First is to do regular exercise. Yes, that is the hard truth, because if we are strong on a regular basis and we do our strength, then we wouldn't be that susceptible to injury. Secondly is to be careful. Don't do dangerous things unnecessarily. Just like in the sermon on being careful on your own, let's exercise safety, whether is it for physical, mental, or spiritual health. Thirdly, do exercise, but in a progressive manner. While we are diligent in our exercise, let's not be too overzealous or over-enthusiastic, but progress the exercise gradually so that our body has time to adapt to it and not be too overloaded in the short term. And with that, we've come to the end of this episode. If you have any questions, feel free to sound it out in the comment section and I'll do my best to answer them. Wishing everyone the best as we continue taking care of ourselves physically, mentally, and spiritually in this history. Thank you for listening and goodbye.
And thank you so much, Yuan for another wonderful episode of Health is Happiness. I hope a lot of people are benefiting from today's episode on injuries, especially soft tissue injuries. And we're going to be getting one more episode next week too. I am so thankful and grateful. And if you guys haven't noticed, Yuan, her mic quality is way better, and I heard she got a new mic, but you can tell. You can tell how much better the mic quality is, so big, super grateful and thankfulness to Yuan for all the hard work she's doing and getting a nice mic for this too. Okay, so there it is, guys. That is today's Wednesday podcast. Hope you guys really enjoyed it as much as I have. And on top of that, I really hope you guys have an amazing and awesome service tonight. All right. So everyone, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know. I'm stop me when I'm